I was surprised to find out that you were inspired, some of your activism stemmed from this feeling you got from your dad.
From his movies.
From his movies.
Right. A number of years ago, one of Martin Luther King, Yolanda King, one of his daughters, called me to talk about something or other. And I was in the process of writing my memoir. And so I was curious. And I said to her, Yolanda, did your dad, Dr. King, did he, like take you on his lap and bounce you on his knees and talk about values, the kind of values you and stuff like that? She said, no, he never did. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, my dad never did either. But you had your dad's sermons. And I had my dad's films. Mm. He didn't really need to say much. I loved him and admired him so much. And I knew that the movies like Young Abe Lincoln and Grapes of Wrath and 12 Angry Men and Wrong Man, those kind of movies were the ones that he really loved and was proud of doing, and he loved those characters. Those are the movies that I identified with, and it was like putting fertilizer on my little soul. When there was something that triggered, which for me was the Vietnam War, all of that became fertile ground for activism.
Your dad, in so many of his films, and I'm thinking specifically when he's in Grapes of Wrath, that speech he gives about the little guy, and that's me, I'll be there.
I'll be there.
That's a speech that resonates maybe more now, or at least as much as it did during the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people out there that feel that they're being bullied, that they're being pushed around. And there's so many Henry Fonda films where the core idea is you have to stand up for the little guy.
Justice, fairness. There were no people of color around me when I was growing up on the West Coast in California. But there was my father's film, The Oxbow Incident, which was about a racist hanging.
Yes, yeah.
It meant so much to me.
That's a generation, whether it's Dr. King or Henry Fonda or even my father, people were not raised, I don't think men were raised back then to show a lot of emotion.
No, they were told not to.
Yeah.
Well, today still, our culture says, if you want to be a man, you don't cry, you don't express need. There's a wonderful movie. It's one of the nominated movies as Best Foreign Films. It's called Close.
I haven't seen it.
It's about this issue of boys in the beginning when they're young. They love on each other. They hug each other. They sleep together. They cuddle. They fall asleep on each other's shoulders. And then they start going to a school, they reach adolescence, and it's suddenly, are you queer?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they get ashamed, and then they pull back. And it's like a loss of humanity that happens because of our culture that says men aren't supposed to be vulnerable and express emotions. It's so sad. I want to, part of what I want to do is change that.
Well, I think you've done, for example, I thought it was very brave. It was also artistically hugely successful. But on Golden Pond, you and your father were laid bare, in a sense, your struggle to connect and put it on film for everybody to see. And I think when the movie came out, as much as I liked it, I couldn't appreciate how scary that is. That's scarier to me than jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, is exposing that kind of vulnerability with a parent, because so many people have a complicated relationship with their parents.
Especially people of a certain age with parents of a certain age, especially if the parents came from the Midwest.
Yeah. And so was your dad aware the whole time that that's what you were exploring, or could he tell himself, well, these are just characters? Because
these are just characters.
Oh, okay.
There's a scene where I tell him I want to be his friend. It's a scene where it's my big scene in the movie. Every time I read it in rehearsals, I would become very emotional because these are things that I never said to my dad. I want to be your friend. And then when it finally came time for me to do it with the camera facing me, I dried up. It was really hard. It was a really important scene for me.
Yeah.
And my dad always liked doing things that had been rehearsed. He wanted to know everything that was going to happen in advance. So on purpose, I did something that I hadn't done in rehearsal. When I said, I want to be your friend, I reached out and touched his arm. And he ducked his head and he went like this. But I could see that he got emotional.
Yeah.
It made me so happy. And I went to dinner at his house that night, and I told him how I had dried up and how I had a hard time with the scene because it was so personal. And I said, you know, in your long career, Dad, did that ever happen to you? Nope.
Yep.
That was it.
Nope. Period.
Nope.
Yep.
You know, he didn't say, well, tell me about what happened. And, you know, he had no clue. Nope. But that's who he was. Like, can't change it.
No. Well, you know, it's funny. You find out later in therapy that parents, you know, they're doing what they can with what they've been given.
They're doing the best they can.
They're doing the best they can. Not all parents. Sona, I don't think you're doing the best you can.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, just to jump out for a second.
Seems hurtful. I've only been a parent for like a year and a half, but you're saying I'm already just.
You seem high most of the time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not totally inaccurate.
It's those first early years where you really have to do the best you can.
Oh, okay. Then I should stop getting high all the time.